happened? What are you, blind? Jesus! Hey, hit that like button if you got that reference. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Faye. Good morning, JP. Good morning, all of you out there. Thank you for stopping by for this wonderful secular sunrise for May 5th, 2026. It's good to see you all. I'm your host, Felicia. Thank you for being here. And cheers to you. Some morning coffee. What a wonderful day it's going to be today. It's going to be bright and sunny. It's going to be nice 80 degrees outside today. Clear skies, maybe a slight breeze. I am looking forward to today. Walk this morning was fantastic. And by the way, in case you're wondering what the show is about and you've never been here before, I will inform you because I'm your hostess and it's just a nice, proper thing to do. We are a secular show. We are not just atheists, but we also have some theists here as well. You're welcome to be a theist here. You're welcome to participate in the chat. You're welcome to leave comments if you'd like. But there are some limitations to it. You do have to be subscribed for 20 minutes to chat. You have to be subscribed for a day to leave comments. I'm done with the drive-bys and the distractions and the nonsense. So if you want to actually interact, you'll have to pay the toll. The toll is boost my ego. But yeah, the show is just about getting the day off to a nice bright start for everybody because I have to go to work directly after this. And so once I go to work, I have to do work stuff. And so the show is about just discussing topics, having chats, that sort of stuff. Nothing particularly hardcore or anything like that. Yes, I myself am an atheist, but that doesn't mean you have to be an atheist. You can share, you're more than welcome to share your beliefs. You're more than welcome to discuss things from a theistic point of view. But we do hold to secular values and not necessarily theistic values. So if you are a hardcore Bible thumper, let's just say, probably not going to get along. But that being said, today's topic's kind of interesting. Hello, Dusk. Good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Today's topic's kind of interesting because Ed, the rabid atheist, brought this up yesterday in his stream, and I decided to do a little bit of a deep dive on this. We haven't gone too much into it, but the topic today is religious residue, and it's really interesting. Now, I know a lot of this will focus. This discussion will focus mostly on atheists and atheist communities, but it's secular in nature, not just atheist or atheistic, and it's basically how religion intersects so strongly with culture, and that intersection also extends beyond organizations outside of religion. And so it does have a pressure effect, if you will, on how those organizations operate as well. So it's pretty interesting to look into that and to see where those schisms lie, and where the dividing lines tend to be, and who tends to get ostracized, who tends to get ignored, who tends to get elevated based in these sorts of communities. It's pretty interesting to think about. Yes, JP, I am a computer software engineer. I'm a senior software engineer. I've been software engineering now for close to 20 years within the live streaming world. My current project right now, outside of work, not for work, but my current project is a Call-In Studio replacement. I feel Call-In Studio is far too expensive for what it does. They charge way too much money. I was doing comparison prices on the Twilio API, along with what it would cost to run an asterisk server on an EC2 instance in AWS, and use the asterisk server as a SIP call-in device for hosts versus phone number call-ins for users. And so I was just doing the numbers on that, and the Call-In Studio is ridiculously expensive for what it does. And so I'm working on a replacement for that, for either for my own use or letting organizations like Recovery from Religion or Skeptic Haven or the smaller channels use that as well. I'd probably charge a licensing fee for like The Line or something like that, or AXP or something like that. Let them use something cheaper than Colon Studio. Colon Studio is great for the niche it serves, I guess, but it's really, really expensive, like really expensive. But yes, I'm a senior software engineer by trade. I specialize in the really weird, quirky things, and so I have, for example, I've got this ongoing project where I'm rebuilding a old cable box to use um, as a cable TV replace simulator using Field Station 42, an old cable box, an IR interpreter. I've almost got. Ooh, let's not break it now. I've almost got this completely working with an Arduino Nano. This is the LED LCD display from the old cable box, a 1980s cable box, mind you, not the year 2000 cable boxes with digital TV, but when everything was still analog. Um, this is my Pico Calc. Runs a Pi Pico. It's designed to be like a TI-83 replacement sort of thing, right? But like if you look at this, as soon as it boots up, instead of having that, I've decided to put Linux on it, or a customized form of Linux, because a Pico is not a x86 processor. So that's one of the other projects I've worked on. And then, oh gosh, did I remember to charge this thing? Oh, yes, it still has a charge. Sweet. All right, so this is my Flipper Zero. I'll show you guys what I've been doing on the Flipper Zero. It's infrared, bad USB, apps, games. There we go. Run in app. There we go. So check this out. This is called Flipper Hack on a Flipper Zero. And you may notice something really cool with this um, is that this is a full screen image, right? And there's no tiling to this whatsoever. So the way developers generally do something like this is they will tile it and then draw the tiles, but this is not tiled. This is a full image. And the way I did this was really, really unique. So because the SD card is so fast, I'm basically streaming data off the SD card directly to the screen to draw an entire image because of how limited this is. There's very limited memory on this. There's very limited it's very limited everything on this. It's really interesting, really unique way to develop. And so, in order to stream, I can actually stream video with that protocol that I've developed, which is kind of cool. Um, it's kind of really neat. You can stream it right off of the SD card. But I built that. I have it's an open source repository on my GitHub. In case you want to check that out, it's called Flipper Hack. It hasn't been updated in a while. I have to do some more work on it. I haven't touched it in a very, very long time because I've been so busy with like work and everything that I haven't had time to devote to it. But in case anybody ever wants to accuse me of doing vibe coding, I've got a dedicated thing called OP-script on that, and OP-script is essentially a byte compiled scripting language for the Flipper Zero, and so uh, because you can't swap out because again limited memory, and I'm building a roguelike NetHack into it. I need to be able to swap in and out different commands, different stuff, right? Different enemies, different ways of calculating damage, that sort of stuff. And so I built a byte compiled scripting language. It's essentially like it uses more of like an assembly language to byte compile it, and I swap in those scripts and execute those scripts because it's such a limited processor, such a limited memory. And so I have that going with that. I have very, very handcrafted memory segments for it. Um, there's a lot going on in there. So like when people just accuse me of vibe coding, I'm just like, look, I've got an entire workflow for this thing that takes images and can convert images to the specific format that can be stored on the SD card, that can be streamed. There's an entire there's an entire workflow to this thing. So when people accuse me of just vibe coding, I'm just like, yeah, okay, listen, I've been a senior software engineer for like 20 years now in the live streaming space. I do things like this. So just because I ask AI to do something like really basic and really fast, that faster than I could set it up as, Like, whatever, dude. So yes, I'm a software developer. I do software development things. Detroit Atheist Queen, great to see you. Thank you for stopping by, Kelly. How to rule an asteroid. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you, Valera. Great to see you as well. So yes, I do a lot of development type stuff. Um, I do a lot of development type stuff. Right now, in case you're ever curious, what my desktop looks like, I use Sway Window Manager in Debian 13. I haven't used Windows in probably I mean, I use Windows every day at work with my work laptop, but, I've used Linux now for probably a decade as my primary desktop. So yeah. I haven't I haven't been a normal computer user for a while. I have not been a normal computer user for a while. Um, yeah, so, religious residue. That was gonna be the topic today, but I got a little distracted because somebody asked me about me, and it was just like, "Oh my gosh, you wanna know about me? Sweet. I'll talk about me." Oh, yes. Yes, yes, and it's by the way, it's definitely coffee. It's got some milk in there. Well, it's got some almond milk in there, a little bit of Splenda. I didn't go black today, I'm sorry. I know I'm bad. I'm so bad, but I didn't want black bitter coffee today. I wanted sweet coffee today. I wanted I wanted coffee that didn't hurt my feelings. I use computers and I'm definitely not no Valera, listen, Val. Here's the deal. Here's the deal for girls like us, right? Um, I don't think a single one of us is normal. I honestly don't think a single one of us is normal in any way, shape, or form, and yet we're all such awesome people. Well, there are a few of us that suck, but we can ignore them. Um, I also like coffee that doesn't hurt my feelings. Exactly how to rule an asteroid. Exactly. Like, don't get me wrong. I enjoy black coffee. I love black coffee from a diner that has been sitting around all morning. Like the really dense, thick stuff. Oh my God. I love that coffee. I will drink that coffee all day, every day. But once in a while, I like coffee that doesn't hurt my feelings. That's just like, yes, Felicia, you can have me. You can enjoy me and you can get a caffeine kick. Is your shirt trans related? Yes, it is trans related. In fact, there you go. Look at that. See? It's the trans colors and it's a phoenix rising like the phoenix. Also, I got a chance to show off my boobies. Thank you, Kelly. I don't mind cold brew coffee every once in a while, just feel alive for a bit. I don't do the cold brew stuff. I never I don't know. I'll do a plain iced coffee, I'll do plain coffee. It's kind of my thing, you know. Mm. This shirt is awesome. I got it from oh gosh, what was the name of the channel I got it from? I got it from a YouTube channel. I'm sorry, it's one of the things I'm subscribed to, and I am a terrible human being because I should know their names off the top of my head. Let me find it for you really quick. I'm so sorry. I need to promote it because I actually need to buy another one of these shirts. Um, oh, you know what? They may have actually stopped doing the show. No, no. It's the Brat podcast. Ben and Robin are trans. I believe I got it from them, from bratpod.com. Let me double check. I believe I got it from them, or I got it from another channel. If I got it from another channel, then it wasn't from the Brat Pod. Then, ooh, if it's not from Brat Pod, let me check. Let me see if they have. I don't think it was from Brat Pod. Damn it! No, it's not from Brat Pod. Oh no! Gosh. All right, I'm gonna have to look it up later. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I know they're in the circle. I know Brat Pod's in the circle of where I got this from. It's there somewhere. They're there somewhere. It's one of my. I am currently subscribed to like 1,000 different channels. So like, They're there somewhere. Oh, lordy, 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 help me. I'm subscribed to them somewhere. I forgot where. Oh, now it's gonna bother me. Now it's just gonna bother me. Oh, no. Oh, no. It's just gonna bother me now. 'Cause now I can't find them. Mm. I'll have to go looking. I'm sorry. I'll have to go looking. Yeah, I'm like in the back rooms of YouTube now, but yeah, because I have to find this is a kind of old one. It's getting a little natty. I need to get a new one anyway. But yeah, so that's my little Rising Phoenix trans shirt. I really love it. I really, really love it. Yeah, so good morning, everyone. This is Secular Sunrise, where we just sort of chat and get our day started right. Mm. Ah, yes. Very good coffee. Very, very good coffee. So what else is there? What else do I want to talk about before I talk about the topic? Do I even want to talk about anything else or just jump into the topic? Mm. Let's just jump into the topic. Let me take my gloves off because I've got notes. And as much as I love these gloves for my arthritis, I can barely use them with my computer equipment. Like because they got these little pads down here, and it's really great for riding on a bicycle, and it's really great for my arthritis and my carpal tunnel. Um, it's fantastic for that. Which, by the way, I desperately need to get a new pair of those. Great for the carpal tunnel. They're great for arthritis. Terrible for actually using a keyboard and a mouse because it's padded and my hand is like, and it's just barely padded too. Like it's just barely padded, but like it keeps my hand up just enough to where my 40 like something years of using computers is like, this is not right. I can't type like this. This is weird. Oh, okay. So, topic. We want tangents, not topics. Haven't heard of the Brat Channel, Val? They're pretty cool. They're pretty cool. We are talking about the back rooms of YouTube though. We are talking about the back rooms at this point. So, I enjoyed Brat Pod. I was in their Discord for a while, and then I sort of like unsubscribed from a bunch of Discord channels. I'm gonna be purging a bunch of Discord channels I'm currently in because I don't participate in them as much as I thought I would. Um, so like there's one of them I'm gonna stay in that's like I actually subscribed and paid to be in it, because I'm doing it to improve my chances at getting a job. It's the NEET code lifetime membership I have. And I figured since I pay for it, I may as well be there. But you'll find me like subscribing and then leaving these various Discord channels all the time because it's just like, I don't participate in it. I'll see you later. There are those I stick around all the time. There's Kelly's that I'll stick around all the time. There's the diversity inclusivity one I'm in. There's the Bridge of the Divide one I'm in. There's mine as well, OPNet. There's Rabid Atheists, Brentley's I'm in. So if you're around, you know. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, and that's why I leave so many though because I mean so many I can't keep up, and just like so many of them, just like, well, this is adjacent to my interests. I like this, and then I never take part in the community whatsoever. And like my main like sort of hive of Discord communities is like two or three at most. The rest of them are just like it's all ancillary. So. Yes, I will stay in that one. I'll stay in that one, Kelly. Don't worry. I'm not gonna leave that one. I'm not gonna leave yours as well. The black what is the name of it? BN. It's BN's community Discord, but it's what does the BN stand for again? I'm so sorry. I'm stupid. It means something. It's black something. I don't know. I'm there to support you guys. That's why I'm there. So, 6 channels alone are for line stuff that I have. Oof, that's too many. That's too many. I can't do the line stuff, and I can't do the line in general. I don't generally listen to the line unless it's like very specific videos that show up. And part of it is the topic I want to talk about today. It's basically religious residue. And the line has a lot of religious residue to its content. Not I don't know about the network itself. I'm not part of the network, so I don't really. I don't know, but like in terms of like the content itself, I would say that there's definitely a lot of, and it's not just the line, it's a lot of atheist content out there. There's a lot of post-denominational residue, we'll say. Um, Black non-believers, that's what it is. Thank you, Kelly. I'm so sorry. So sorry. It was black something, and I was just like, what does the N stand for? Damn it. It's like I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm pretty sure it's like I'm pretty sure it's not Black Knight. Like that doesn't make sense because Black Knight. I'm thinking pinball, and I'm just like, oh man, Black Knight, what a great pinball game. But I'm like, no, pretty sure there's not a Discord dedicated to the Black Knight pinball game. I'm pretty sure this has nothing to do with that. But yeah, the line. I think even AXP. I think pretty much every atheist content network out there, they all have this post denominational residue, and it's this weird sort of like, and it's a very American thing, you know. It's this very strange like American Protestant thing, especially this Protestant religion thing. Where like you have these old denominational boundaries that exist within theology, especially in America with like, with Protestantism and Catholicism, and so the old like Protestant Catholicism suspicion divide becomes an ex-Protestant, ex-Catholic suspicion divide. You have the evangelical testimony, which then turns into deconversion testimony culture. Heresy hunting becomes, bad atheist hunting. Um, I guess like missionary zeal becomes counter apologetic zeal. And it's like the church basement becomes a Discord server. It's not like, and it's not necessarily, it's like it's what people know. It's how people know and interact with life in general, but they tend not to see it. And it's kind of like, as being an outside observer to this stuff, it's kind of really interesting because there's actually some research that backs this up as like a valid observation. It's the belief flip is not clean, especially when deconverting and becoming an atheist. Research says leaving religion is a gradual process that involves things like reason, moral criticisms, personal developments. And let me bring the actual article back up. Secularism and Non-Religions by Ubiquity Press has a research article by Sergio Perez and Frederic Valeres called "How Do Religious People Become Atheists? Applying a Grounded Theory Approach to Propose a Model of Deconversion," which was published back in 2018. And it's pretty interesting how they highlight that it's not just a clean flip. I mean, we all sort of knew it wasn't a clean flip, um, but this research bleeds into the religious residue research. People who leave religion can still resemble religious people in values like conformity, like tradition, like security, and this, um, according to the University Communications and Marketing of University of Nebraska Lincoln, by Dean Gaiman, the residue effect, the values hold even after faith falters. In the research paper titled "The Values of Religious Nuns, Duns, and Sacralized Americans: The Link Between Changes in Religious Affiliation and Schwartz Values," basically says that this sort of religious residue, the conformity, the tradition, the security, is especially visible among evangelicals and the ex-evangelicals, which is I find really interesting because the ex-evangelicals are the ones who tend to dominate the discussion online, especially in America. Maybe not globally, but definitely in America, the ex-evangelicals are the one who dominate the discussion online. Um, and it's very interesting. According to Cambridge, there is the ideology among the ex-Christians versus the lifelong non-religious Americans is also an interesting split. That basically says non-religious is not one uniform culture, and the never religious socially, culturally, dynamically behaves fundamentally different than the religious duns. It's a very, very interesting sort of it's a very interesting siphon of research that basically kind of boils down to, and there's no, and unfortunately, there's no like official meta research that I can find on this, but it seems to be boiling down to that your religion shapes your atheism in very dramatic, very noticeable, very perceptible ways. And because your religion, your religious experience shapes your atheism, my hypothesis, my working conjecture right now is that that is shaping our secular communities. And I think that can lead to some long-term harm for people. Things like exclusions and basically just reestablishing the old way of doing things, as it were. But I've got this whole list written down that we'll get to. It's a very interesting sort of deep dive I did because thanks to Ed. Thank you, Ed, by the way, if you're listening on your drive home. You drove me absolutely insane with this last night and this morning. I went I went deep into this one. And it's really interesting because I believe this is shaping and shows exactly why, well, maybe not exactly, but for a large part, especially with the ex-evangelical heavy atheist communities, why they behave the way they behave. And it's very interesting because we end up with we end up with this. We end up with like a situation like this where we have an ex-evangelical and an ex-Catholic atheist, right? We both reject the premise of God, but we have different inherited assumptions about what religion even is, like fundamentally. And so those inherited assumptions end up with like how do I describe this? Okay, so an ex-evangelical may view religion may view like real deconversion, like the no true Scotsman fallacy version of real conversion, as I believe the Bible was literally true, and then I studied science and philosophy, and then I became an atheist, and now I fight the bad arguments. But for an ex-Catholic like myself, that doesn't ring true. Um, I didn't stop believing years before I deconverted. I don't have that particular part of my story, but I did have a faith crisis where because I was doing the seminary track thing and I was just like, oh, holy crap, I was going to dedicate my life to this. And then I became depressed and whatever. But like a typical Catholic, maybe like I stopped believing years before I stopped participating. Um, and when it comes to Catholicism, the real issues that I found have been, family, friends, schooling, the basic rituals of being a Catholic, the authority, the cultural identity, the shame that comes along with not being Catholic. Um, these two stories, the ex-evangelical and the ex-Catholic story, they don't intersect, right? There may be some intersection there, but by and large, they're two different views of what deconversion looks like. And an ex-Muslim story, an ex-Jew story, an ex-Buddhist story will be completely and utterly different. And so we end up, especially when we have secular communities that are very heavily leaning towards one particular deconversion story or another, um, we can build those presuppositions of the former religion, of how community is supposed to work, uh, into those new secular organizations. And so it ends up being a really, really weird sort of like, rather than being an atheist or a secular community, it just ends up being like a post evangelical community type of thing, or even a post-Catholic community or a post-Muslim community. And I'm focusing heavily on the post-evangelical side of things because let's be perfectly honest, it's the evangelical debate that's really garnering views right now. It's the evangelical debate that is really gaining attention or has the attention of people. It is not the traditional Thomistic metaphysics debate from Catholicism. It's not an orthodoxy debate, although orthodoxy has ramped up a little bit in popularity relative to evangelicalism. It's not the Jewish debates. It's not the Muslim debates in America, at least. that have this. It's very much the evangelical debate that predominantly dominates the discussion, especially here in America. And there's a reason for that. I mean, it's the evangelical side of things that is extremely much more one-sided popular, than say Catholicism, which is just sort of like a Catholicism is sort of like a background baseline default. I guess people just sort of say or do like, I'll get baptized just in case, whatever. Um, the social Catholic thing's weird. Um, so we kind of like miss each other. And so I think what happens is like, especially for me, I've noticed like the ex-evangelical side of things tends to look at the ex-Catholic side of things and go, um, they were never the Catholic was never really Christian, in the same way, or you don't understand fundamentalism, or I've been told that before, which is, I mean, yes, I don't understand fundamentalism. I think it's a major cognitive flaw, but I think it's a major cognitive flaw because of lack of critical reasoning skills, not because of lack of brain development or anything like that. Um, I've been accused of being too culturally religious, which is still something I don't quite understand, but whatever. I've been accused of being too ritualistic or enjoying ritual too much. I've been accused of being soft on religion. Like, hey, yeah, I'm a little soft on religion relative to a lot of ex-evangelicals because there's still human behind that religion, right? Like, like, like I've got to talk to the human being first, guys. I've got to speak to the human being. So it's a lot of stuff like that. Or a caring. I haven't been told this myself, but I've heard this from other ex-Catholics. You care too much about institutions and not enough about arguments. I haven't been told that I don't care enough about arguments. I think because I come rather prepared for a lot of these arguments, and so maybe there's this whole like sort of respect for that, I guess, because I do come from like the intelligista side of Catholicism and not necessarily the cultural Catholic side of things. Um, but one thing I have been told, and this is the thing that I get a lot from the ex-evangelicals, is that you don't have the scar tissue that I do, so you don't get it. And like I get that from a personal like deconversion story standpoint. But that doesn't make my atheism any less true than yours, But I get that. I've gotten that. I don't want to say so much, but I've gotten that a couple of times now. Like, oh, you just don't understand. I mean, to a degree, I don't, right? But I'm willing to listen, right? I'm willing to listen and understand. But at the same time, like, just because I don't understand or emotionally feel the weight of your story, the way that somebody else who has lived your similar story made feel, doesn't mean I'm not willing to listen or understand, or doesn't mean that I'm not an atheist. It's very, very strange. And then, and I had to do some thinking about this. Like I had to do some real thinking about this. Like, because that's the stuff that I've been thrown at by ex-evangelicals. But as an ex-Catholic, I've had my own thoughts, and they're like the flip side of the evangelical accusations, and I realize just like how harmful they could be. So like I'll tell you straight up, like I ask in my mind, I don't generally ask people this, but I'll ask like, why are you still preaching? Right? Because you're not making an argument. You're like you're still doing argumentation like you're an evangelical, right? Like, why is everything a debate with you? Right? Like, why does everything have to be a debate? Why is everything a debate format? Why aren't we having a conversation? Right? Why does every disagreement have to become a schism? Right? Right? Like we want to do things different ways. Let's come together and figure it out. But then you start to realize, like, or this one, this one was this one was a particularly rude thought I had. I didn't actually say it, but I did have this thought. I said, I thought to myself, why are you just recreating youth groups, but angrier? Yeah, a lot of these atheist communities, a lot of these atheist circles, they're just youth groups, but angrier. So it's like I guess you could ask the question, why are you still rejecting religion or pretending you escaped religion when you're still doing, the altar call, but with different nouns, right? Um, and that's the judgmental ex-Catholic side of me talking, right? That's the judgmental side of I don't understand. It's really what it is a cultural divide, right? I'm a northeastern Catholic. I am not a Southern Baptist. I'm not an evangelical from Missouri. I'm not any of that. I am a New York City Catholic through and through, right? Steeped in science, tradition, metaphysics, and a pride about my intellectual capabilities. Not necessarily, and not necessarily giving two shits about the Bible, right? Like I care about the Bible, right? Like I cared about the Bible, but like not in the way an evangelical cares about the Bible. It is not the same. And I'll be the first to admit it's not the same. The understandings of the Bible, of the teachings of the Bible, are different, and so there's a real fundamental cultural split there, which carries over the religious residue to the atheist community. So like, um, one of the things I really noticed about the atheist community, and it's really weird to me, is um, nobody paid attention to me until I started giving testimony about why I'm an atheist, right? Like I could give arguments about or counter arguments to like presuppositionalism or contingency or the cosmological argument. I could do that all day long. Nobody really pays attention to that. What they pay attention to is your testimony. Why are you an atheist? What was your story? And testimony, especially in atheist circles, seems to be status, right? Like, here's who I was, here's the truth of what saved me, here's who I am now. And that sort of mutates into the atheist deconversion story, and it acts like a almost like a social currency, right? Like, I don't I don't care that you were a former pastor, right? I don't care that you were like, for me personally, I don't care if you were a former pastor. I don't care if you were a former Jehovah's Witness. I don't care if you were a former Mormon or a former Muslim or a Sheik or anything like that. I care about your thoughts now because where you came from helps me understand how you form your thoughts today. But what I really care about are your thoughts right now, right? I care about what you think a community is. I care about how you think we can make things better. I care about how you carry your load and how you help others carry their load. So like I don't particularly care if you're an ex mainline Protestant or an ex, or if you're a Jewish atheist. I don't particularly care about that, right? So like what what I care about is that like what I care about is if we come to a disagreement, that's when I start to care about your background, right? Like, okay, well, why do you think that? Let's both discuss why we think what we think. So maybe we can come to a resolution that both of us can agree on, right? So like, but it seems in atheist circles to garner anyone's sort of attention, you have to clearly state this is who I was and this is why I deconverted. You can't just simply be, hey man, listen, you know what? I did the religion thing for 20 years and it just seemed like BS to me and I just stopped going. Like it's really weird like to be listened to, not to be popular, not to get views on YouTube, but to genuinely be listened to and heard out. You have to have some sort of powerful testimony behind it, especially in the evangelical or ex-evangelical heavy atheist communities. And it's that's one of the biggest like religious residue things I noticed, and it's very very interesting. Good morning, Ryan. Good to see you. Good morning. Good to see you. Hello, Theo. Good to see you. Thank you all for stopping by. Thank you so much. Um, it's I know so many atheists in the spotlight that are still preaching. Well, yeah, I mean, because that's what they know, right? Like, um, that's what they know. That's how they know things. I'll catch up on the chat room now because I've got a whole bunch of other things that's probably going to go for another 20 minutes or so. Um, I watch a lot of the line and adjacent creators. Religion that never had much presence IRL for me, so I find it all very interesting. It is interesting. Um, Takis is the best show online. It's a very good show. I feel as if someone who is never religious, I feel a bit of disconnect with other atheist circles. Well, Dusk, yeah, because you've never had that cultural imprinting, and so it would be like to you if you were born and raised in America, or born. Let's say you were born and raised in Brazil, right? And then you moved to Japan. Completely different culture. You were completely disconnected from the cultural understanding of what it means to be alive. It's just completely different. Like you're never gonna have that connection. So it is whatever. Like it's weird. Catholicism always seemed like a pagan Christianity to me, coming from a young Earth creationist background. But that wasn't bad. So, yeah. So like, so that's the thing though. Like Protestants in general tend to view Catholicism as a bit of a pagan Christianity, and Christians vice versa view the low church as less than them. There is that underlying tension between the two, and that carries over very heavily into atheist circles. It's really fascinating. It's very, very, very fascinating. Because I went down this rabbit hole, man, because of Ed. What a This is your fault, Ed. This is all your fault. I think a downside to never having been religious is that mentally I'm definitely less charitable to theists as I should be because I genuinely don't get it. Um, so I don't think that's necessarily because you were never religious, Dusk. I think that's necessarily more of like a cultural respect thing. If you step away from the religious framing and then view it more as a cultural thing rather than theism and atheism, I think you'll have a better understanding and a little bit more sympathy towards the theistic mindset. And I think that'll help you in your communication with theists. So, anyway, moving on to my other points. One of the things I noticed as well, and this is true in pretty much all secular communities, not just atheist circles, but um, evangelism becomes counter evangelism. I can speak words, good me. Um, a lot of the ex-atheist spaces, some of the secular ones too, they keep up the missionary engine, as it were, right? So like um you have the goal. It may not be stated as, no, I'm not trying to deconvert you, but you silently have a goal of conversion in the background, right? Because that's the way the machinery was built. The target is believers to become atheists, although you may not explicitly say it, you may not explicitly believe it, but your street preaching becomes street epistemology almost. Although I don't want to say street epistemology because there is the street epistemology channel which actually doesn't do this, but it does a pretty interesting thing. Anyway, um, your apologetics become counter apologetics, right? Um, your revival meetings are now debate panels. Saving souls is freeing minds, that sort of thing. So you have um it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a ghost in the machine. It's the ghost in the machine that is silently in the background. May not be overtly stated, you may believe counter to it, but functionally the machine is, we exist to rescue them. Because that's kind of like the machinery of evangelicalism, right? And so the way it's set up, you may state, "Oh, we're not trying to deconvert anyone. We're just trying to have a conversation. We're just trying to debate." Um, but silently, the machine may be, we're trying to save them, right? That might be the unspoken part, ghost in the machine. And let's be honest. If let's be completely honest here. If these conversations were just about conversations, if they were just about intellectual debate, they would literally just be conversations with people discussing things. But they're never with just people discussing things. It's always the evangelical debate. And the evangelical debate is the purpose of it, the function of it is to get people on your side, right? So uh, it's not a conversation. It's not, if it was just about having conversations. We would be here having conversations, which is the point of secular sunrise. To step away, to step outside of the debate circle, to step outside of the I want you on my side. I don't care if you're a theist or an atheist. I hope we attract more theists, honest with you. I really do. I'd love to discuss why they believe what they believe and just listen to their stories, as powerful as they may be, as emotionally manipulative as they may be. I would love to listen to their stories and show people that they're still human beings and give the theist the opportunity to see that we're still human beings, that we're not just angry atheists, that we're not just masking our former religious habits with our atheism. That's kind of like my goal, is to just say, hey, listen, we're all still human. Um, we're all still human, and we all have to continue to be humans. And if we don't act like humans, then we're not going to like do anything. We're just going to spin our wheels helplessly and burn out. It's so useless to me. Um, the other thing I noticed is that like the trend, especially in like Catholic in like ex-Catholic atheists, I've noticed. And this may be true of the Exvangelicals, though I don't really know much about the evangelical culture than I do with the Catholic culture, but it seems like the old term of heresy just sort of becomes like bad atheism, essentially. So like the not really a Christian thing becomes not really an atheist thing. You could see this with the Alex O'Connor stuff, right? So Alex has been doing atheism wrongly, according to a lot of different people. I don't think he necessarily is not an atheist anymore. He may strictly be agnostic and not necessarily identify strictly atheist. Um, but like I don't necessarily think calling him a bad atheist or telling or saying he's a bad actor because he's had very soft interviews lately is in any way fair or indicative of him being bad. Like he's undergone a witch hunt now within atheism. And I think part of that is due to the ex-evangelical nature of the atheist circles. Now, I myself think his latest video on Ricky Gervais was sort of like perversely stupid in terms of how he approached the argument Ricky Gervais was presenting. I don't necessarily like if the argument was how Alex claimed it was, then he has a valid metaphysical complaint. But I didn't view it as that. I viewed it as, hey, I'm just telling you what it's like qualitatively to be an atheist, and therefore, so what? So I think his objection was a complete miss, but I don't think he was being necessarily a bad atheist. I don't think he's a Christian bad faith actor. I don't think, especially like Bad Science on was it Bad? No, I'm sorry, Sound of Reason, was is doing the dramatic. He's a Christian propagandist or something like that, or I forgot exactly what he called them. I don't necessarily ascribe to that. I think his interview with John Lennox was very soft, but I also think John Lennox doesn't give interviews to people who are going to be combative with him. Like you're either doing a debate with John Lennox or you're doing a softball interview. Like there's no in between there. Um, so I don't necessarily think it was very fair to witch hunt Alex for being a bad atheist, but I feel like a lot of that heresy mentality of ex-evangelicalism sort of bled into that, and I think that's a lot of the religious residue that we're seeing, within our own secular communities. I don't think that does anyone any favors, I guess. Um, you know, who needs to be street epistemolized? Let's see here. YouTube isn't just having a powerful testimony with the inner community. What is also true is that a powerful testimony attracts opponents from one's former faith, and that gives further street cred. That's fair. That's fair. Ed. There is a lot to be said about having street cred, which is very strange to me because like if you don't believe, then you don't believe, right? Like I don't care how much street cred you have. I care if you can think. I care if you can think, and I care if you could put, and not only that, but I care if you're willing to put in the effort to think, right? That's what I care about. Like, that's why I like Ryan so much. Like, Ryan's awesome, not because she's a powerful story, not because she's a beautiful woman, not because she speaks in a very colloquial yet powerful way about her deconversion, about Jehovah's Witnesses, but because she actually thinks uniquely, right? Like she thinks not differently, but she thinks powerfully. Like some of the objections she's brought up to Jehovah's Witnesses, some of the objections she's brought up to the Bible and biblical stories is not the same old shtick, right? There are unique. There's a unique synthesis happening, which is why I love Ryan's stuff, right? It's why I love Ed's stuff. I love Ed's stuff because he's not throwing around the typical he's not throwing around the typical atheist counter apologetics. It's why I love Detroit Atheist Queen stuff. She's really trying to synthesize new stuff from a black creator's perspective. She's trying her damnedest to come up with interesting questions and learning how to become a better interviewer. She's putting a lot of effort into being a better person because of her secular attitude, because of that. And so, I really appreciate things like that. Um, what I don't care about is anyone's particular background, right? Like, I don't care that Ryan came out of Jehovah's Witnesses. I don't care that Ed was a former preacher, pastor, now turned compassionate anti-theist. Um, I don't care about Kelly's background. I care about what people are doing today because today is what I'm very pragmatic in that sense, especially when it comes to my relational atheism stuff. What are you doing today that affects the relational web today that will improve it tomorrow? And I think a lot of these people, a lot of these creators do that. I think a lot of the people who are monetizing this stuff, who are trying to make a paycheck out of this stuff, are doing so fairly, are doing so fine. But I also think a lot of the stuff they do is ultimately more harmful to the secular world than it is helpful. Because I think social media in general is a piece of crap. But that's just me. So again, moving on again to using the Alex O'Connor stuff, I think purity culture becomes ideological hygiene. You have, evangelicals' purity culture and Catholicism's purity culture too. Let's be honest, not just evangelical. It's Christian purity culture as a whole. Isn't just about sex, right? It's about contamination. It's about cultural contamination. You can read bad books. You can have bad friends. You could play bad video games. If you play Dungeons and Dragons, listen to bad music. You could have bad thoughts. God knows all your thoughts. You have to go to confession for them, especially in Catholicism. If you thought about that girl's booty, you better confess it because God knows. You can have bad influences as well. That's purity culture. That's not specific to evangelicals. Evangelicals are a little nuttier about it, especially when it comes to like media and stuff like that. But Catholics are just as bad when it comes to that stuff. They're just less. They're less burning in hell because you rolled a d20, and more. Ew, that's weird and disgusting. Why would you do that? They're more social ostracization than they are you're going to burn in hellfire. But in secular spaces, this becomes contamination by association. And I've noticed this very, very strongly, not just in atheist circles, but the secular world in general. You start treating disagreement as infection. You start treating you start if somebody says, let's say, I'll give an example. I thought Matt Dillahunty made a really poor argument once, and I had commented, Gee, it would have been better if Matt said I forget exactly what it was. I think it was something about the Kalam, and I said, boy, it would have been better if Matt didn't go down this route. Instead, he said something along the lines of like, but we can't really prove, cosmic inflation or metric inflation. We can only prove and observe metric expansion, something really along those lines. And it was related specifically to that one argument, something like that. And the amount of the amount of accusation I got for saying, "Boy, that sounds like something a Christian would say," was kind of disturbing, right? Like, disagreeing with the current pope of atheism, as it were. I say that tongue in cheek, okay? I'm not please. I say that tongue in cheek. You become that sort of purity culture, atheistic purity culture becomes um a fear of contamination, right? Like, so you become the community becomes less interested in whether you've brought up a good idea, or less interested in whether somebody's actually caused harm, and more interested in whether you're being ritually unclean. Um what time is it? Oh, I only got 5 minutes left. Oh crap. I've got so much. I could have done like a 2 hour segment on this. I may have to extend this to tomorrow, guys, because I've got so much more I want to talk about. I've got a list of like 20 things I wanted to talk about too. Because it was amazing to see like the cultural impact that leaving religion has on how things are shaped. And here's the other thing, like, how do you deconstruct from religion and religious belief, but also separate yourself from the cultural construction that you've had based on that? You know? It's really interesting. He's a patriarch of a certain sect of atheism. Whether the secular community is one community is a debatable point as well. Oh no, I agree. I agree, Ed. Whether the secular community is a community as a whole is something to be debated. Um, I'm just using secular as a broad terminology here at this point, because I am of the position that a secular community or a secular society is one that doesn't adhere to theological insistences, and instead adheres to reality, like data and scientific advancement, rather than dogma. So I'm sort of broadly categorizing secularism in that sense, which can include, with that definition, include theists. But it has to include a very specific kind of theist, and it is exclusionary of certain theistic opinions. But I have so much I wanted to go on, because I went down this rabbit hole, and man, the breaking point is, how do you separate the intertwining of such a dominantly culturally established religion from how the culture you were raised in actually functionally behaves? How do you separate the two and then form something from the pieces of the framework that's better, while still adhering to something that a human can operate by and understand and appreciate? How do you do that? Like, how do you build the system that a human can appreciate, that as the evolved biological beings that we are, that it can operate in, that it can understand the authority structure of, that it can know the social boundaries of the society, of the culture, of the community it's within, and still separate that out from the culture the person was raised in, and that culture is so dominantly heavily influenced by the religion, the theology of that culture. How do you do that? How do you separate that out? How do you separate those threads? That, I think, is really sort of like, that's the ghost in the machine, right? So, like, I don't think you necessarily can do that. But what I think you can do is make yourself aware of the behaviors that negatively affect your community as a whole. And then when you press too hard on one pedal of that behavior, I think you can be made aware that, hey, maybe we're going a little too hard into ritualism here, guys, or maybe we're going a little too hard into purity culture here. You know, and personally, I think the best way to do that is with, I would say, like, open, honest discussions, open, honest intellectual debates on matters might be the best way to come about that. Not necessarily the evangelical debate system, which is just monkeys yelling at monkeys, flinging shit at each other. Um, but it may be just like an ongoing, continuous refinement process. That's sort of maybe one solution, just to bake in a continual refinement process. This continual debate system where we go, hey, maybe we need to make ourselves aware that we're acting too patriarchal, or we're acting too exclusionary to this particular group, and how do we address that? How do we include that group, or how do we stop doing witch hunts because somebody doesn't behave in the way I think an atheist should behave? How do we bake that into the system rather than the dominant evangelical system of, you have to bend the knee to what I say? Because that seems to be the dominant play here right now for this community, is that people essentially, not necessarily by like one person decreeing it to be so, but rather as a herd mentality in general, that we tend to demand conformity rather than diversity. And that's not necessarily like wrong in a biological sense, but I think making ourselves aware of it, making ourselves aware of our biology, making ourselves aware of how we behave, I think is going to be paramount to building anything truly secular. I think again, I think just really what it boils down to is education is astonishingly important. Um, and we have to do a better job of that. And I think a lot of the little things we're missing, and I'm speaking more outside atheism now. I'm speaking more as secularism as a whole. I think we do an astonishingly poor job of the little things. Um, yeah. Anyway, I have to get to work, and I'm on point 5 of 15 points that I wrote down. Ed, what is wrong with me? Oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? Anyway, guys, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. I'm gonna be ending the chat soon. I'm gonna be ending the stream. Not ending the stream permanently. I'm gonna be ending this stream soon. So, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe if you can. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about the atheist community in general. Let me know what you think about secular ideas in general, because I really want to have this discussion. I really want to have this conversation, because I think we could be doing better. Not that necessarily anyone's doing wrong right now. Not that anyone necessarily is being um, particularly like abusive or manipulative or anything like that, but more that we all have religious residue, right? In doing this stream and presenting the way I'm presenting, I am presenting my religious residue to you. God, that sounded disgusting and gross. Um Forgive me. I didn't mean it in that particular way. But no, I mean there is a certain religious bent to there is a cultural bent to how I've presented this so thus far, and I may do another 2 streams on this. Who knows? I may not. I'd love to hear your comments on this. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you feel too, because this isn't just about debating. This isn't just about trashing people. I'm not here to trash Dillahunty. I'm not here to trash Jimmy Snow or any apologists in general, or Alex O'Connor or anyone like that. I'm here to really genuinely discuss the system of how we as an atheist community and how we as a secular community works. Because If we can suss out the little bugs in the machine, the little ghosts in the machine, and make ourselves aware of the ghosts in the machine, I think ultimately we can have better conversations in the future. All right, well, that's all the time I got for today, folks. I've got to head to work. Thank you so much for this, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern. I can speak good me for more secular sunrise. Bye.